Friends, this is Richard Wolff, and no, you are not crazy. The Trump crowd keeps screaming that America is booming while your rent explodes, your job vanishes, and your kids are drowning in debt. That isn't an economy. That's a con game with a flag wrapped around it. Here's the punchline Trump never admits. The so-called great American jobs machine he bragged about has turned into a phantom economy, an economy that exists on paper, in speeches, and on stock charts, but not in the lives of workers. Recently, the government quietly revised its own numbers and erased nearly 1 million jobs from the books. Almost 1 million new jobs that politicians, including Trump and his allies, pointed to as proof that everything was fine, simply never existed. They were statistical ghosts, imaginary proof for a propaganda slogan, America is back. Back for whom? On TV, you see the stock market hitting record highs, the S&P up more than 30%, the Dow smashing past 47,000. Corporate profits at historic levels, CEO bonuses hitting 8 figures. The Trump worldview says, see, the market loves it, the system works. Now picture a different image. A glass tower in Manhattan, champagne in the boardroom as executives toast a record quarter. Downstairs in the same building, workers file out with cardboard boxes, security badges deactivated, health insurance gone by midnight. On the ticker, stock up 6% because of cost cuts. That is Trump's real economy, an economy where your pain is literally their rally. The official unemployment rate sits around 4%. Trump-style cheerleaders call that full employment. But behind that single number are millions of people begging for work, millions more juggling 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and millions who simply gave up because every entry-level posting demands years of experience they were never allowed to get. On paper, they vanish. In real life, they're driving Uber at midnight with a college degree and $40,000 in student debt. This is not some accidental glitch. For decades, corporate America followed a simple logic: retain and reinvest. You trained workers, promoted from within, built careers. That model helped create the very middle class Trump loves to pose in front of. Then came the shift Trump championed. Downsize and distribute. Cut staff, crush unions, slash training, ship jobs abroad or automate them, and funnel the savings to shareholders and executives. Trump's tax cuts and deregulation didn't reverse that trend. They put it on steroids. He handed more power and more cash to the very boardrooms that see workers not as human beings, but as labor costs to be minimized. So when you hear Trump boasting about markets, growth, and jobs, remember this: the system he defends is one where a company can fire thousands of people, replace them with algorithms and outsourced contractors, and be rewarded with a soaring share price. In that world, the line between success and collapse is simple. If you own assets, you win. If you sell your labor, you are expendable. This is the core obscenity of the Trump economy. It measures prosperity by how loud the trading floor cheers, not by whether a worker can pay rent, see a doctor, and believe their children will have it better. An economy that calls that winning is already rotting from the inside. And here's where the Trump fantasy really collides with reality. The career ladder itself is being ripped out of the building. For most of the 20th century, American companies looked like a pyramid. You started at the bottom, you learned, you rose. Promotions were the rule, not the miracle. Trump loves to cosplay as the champion of that old middle-class dream. Tracking systems scan for keywords, not talent. One missing phrase, one formatting choice, and you might as well not exist. Employers complain they can't find qualified workers, while millions of qualified workers are stuck behind a robot gatekeeper. This is what Trump's corporate allies call efficiency. It is, in practice, a systematic exclusion machine. And just when workers think they've finally built the right resume, another wave hits. automation and AI. Under Trump's logic, anything that raises the stock price is genius. So when CEOs announce they're replacing call centers with chatbots, drivers with autonomous vehicles, and back offices with machine learning systems, the market applauds. The fact that the AI often doesn't work, that it frustrates customers, that it destroys livelihoods, that's treated as a rounding error. You can see the warped morality in one simple scene: a boardroom slide deck celebrating headcount reduction as a success metric. Jobs, real human jobs, are literally plotted as a declining line next to rising earnings per share. And Trump's policy legacy is to reward that trend with tax cuts, deregulation, and political protection. It is the perfect feedback loop. Tracking systems scan for keywords, not talent. One missing phrase, one formatting choice, and you might as well not exist. Employers complain they can't find qualified workers, while millions of qualified workers are stuck behind a robot gatekeeper. This is what Trump's corporate allies call efficiency. It is, in practice, a systematic exclusion machine. And just when workers think they've finally built the right resume, another wave hits: automation and AI. Under Trump's logic, anything that raises the stock price is genius. So when CEOs announce they're replacing call centers with chatbots, drivers with autonomous vehicles, and back offices with machine learning systems, the market applauds. The fact that the AI often doesn't work, that it frustrates customers, that it destroys livelihoods, that's treated as a rounding error. You can see the warped morality in one simple scene: a boardroom slide deck celebrating headcount reduction as a success metric. Jobs, real human jobs, are literally plotted as a declining line next to rising earnings per share. And Trump's policy legacy is to reward that trend with tax cuts, deregulation, and political protection. It is the perfect feedback loop. Cut workers, boost profits, praise the leader who made it easier to cut workers again. The result is a generation that no longer believes in the deal their parents were sold. They watch colleagues laid off over Zoom, pensions replaced by volatile 401ks, and rents rising faster than any promotion. They respond with quiet quitting, not because they are lazy, but because they refuse to emotionally invest in a system that treats them as disposable. This isn't a cultural fad. It's a rational survival instinct in an economy that has turned loyalty into a liability. An economic order that punishes commitment, blocks entry, and celebrates layoffs is not merely unstable, it is suicidal. When the bottom rungs of the ladder are sawed off and the people holding the chainsaw call it freedom, the collapse that follows is not a surprise. It is the logical outcome of a system that has chosen shareholder euphoria over human dignity as its guiding principle. Continuing from the core of this crisis, we have to confront the most brutal piece of Trump-era economics: a system where human beings are downgraded into costs, while technology, glitchy, untested, and wildly overhyped, is crowned as the unquestioned savior. This is not innovation. It is an arms race to replace labor before anyone dares ask who benefits and who's left behind. Across boardrooms, executives boast about automation like it's a patriotic duty. They promise efficiency, productivity, lower costs. Yet behind the curtain, the numbers tell a darker truth. More than 90% of corporate AI projects fail to deliver measurable value, but the layoffs they justify are permanent. Trump calls this the future. Workers call it what it is: displacement disguised as progress. And the destruction is not speculative. It is happening in real time. Millions of jobs are being hollowed out as companies chase an AI fantasy inflated by shareholders and political hype. When a CEO fires thousands to pivot to automation, the market cheers. When the system fails, when customer complaints surge, when AI misfires, when operations collapse, the layoffs are never reversed. The workers do not return. The technology does not apologize. The stock price remains elevated. That is the brutality of Trump's economic worldview. Mistakes are absorbed by workers. Profits are absorbed by shareholders. Risk is socialized downward. Reward is privatized upward. Picture a warehouse at dusk, vast and silent, the hum of machines replacing the chatter of workers. Robot arms move in perfect sequence, but there is no applause, no humanity, no path upward for anyone. In the parking lot, the cars of the laid-off employees sit abandoned. They came for their severance paperwork, not their shifts. That image is the real monument of Trump-era economics, an economy where the lights stay on, but the people are gone. Meanwhile, the hiring system continues to malfunction. Even workers who adapt, who upskill, who spend thousands on certifications face a labyrinth built to exclude them. 1 in 3 hiring managers admit they avoid recent graduates entirely. More than half of companies have fired at least one new hire because they didn't meet expectations. Expectations shaped by a labor market that provides no training, no mentorship, no stability. The message is unmistakable. You are responsible for skills you were never allowed to acquire. And beneath all this turbulence lies a deeper fracture, the psychological one. The unwritten contract that held the American workforce together for generations has been shredded. Hard work no longer guarantees security. Loyalty no longer guarantees stability. The system no longer even tries to pretend. The result is a generation delaying families, abandoning career dreams, and withdrawing emotionally from an economy that punishes effort and rewards extraction. That erosion of trust doesn't stay in the workplace. It spills into society. It weakens institutions, fuels political rage, and fractures the very social cohesion Trump claims to defend. When workers believe the system is rigged, when the middle class evaporates, when technology becomes a weapon instead of a tool, democracy itself becomes brittle. The center cannot hold when the ladder is gone. Structural solutions exist: shorter work weeks to share productivity gains, robot taxes to rebalance the cost of automation, worker seats on corporate boards to shift power, apprenticeships to rebuild the talent pipeline. But none of these fit the Trump doctrine, because each requires confronting a truth he refuses to face. An economy cannot survive on extraction alone. If workers are treated as disposable, the prosperity built on their backs becomes disposable too. The American dream is not collapsing because workers failed. It's collapsing because a system built on short-term profit, deregulation, and corporate appeasement has finally reached its breaking point. And the most dangerous illusion of all is pretending that a soaring stock market can compensate for a sinking society.